Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Uduak Amimo. Cheche today looks ahead to next week's Devolution conference. The focus of this year's gathering is consolidating the gains after transition and looking into the future. Our guests are the Vice Chairman of the Council of Governors, Salim Vuria, he's the Governor of Kwale County, and Wanjiru Gikonyo, the National Coordinator of the Institute for Social Accountability, TISA. As always, we have a panel. We have Uwerumburu sitting in for Mutegi Njau, and as always, David Makali. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Mburi, I'll start with you because this is the third Devolution conference. We first met at the first Devolution conference in Kwale, your county. So what's different this time around as we meet?
First of all, this is the third Devolution conference. We started in Kwale and then went to Kisumu, and now we are going to Meru. In Kwale, that was the time we had, just existed for 1 year. So we're basically looking at, how the implementation has started. In Kisumu, we are looking at the strengthening part of it. Now in Meru, we are having something special because now the transition period has ended on 4th of March, and therefore we are going to Meru to look at the promise of devolution to Kenyans, but also consolidating the gains after the transition period. So I think this is a very, very critical moment because we'll be looking at what has been developed, how has it been able to be implemented, what are the challenges, and how can we then move forward after transition. So I think it's a very, very crucial conference to be able to get all these lessons and experiences in the room.
Wanjiru, moving forward after the transition, as the governor says, the transition period has ended, the transitional authority has wound up, its functions have been moved on to the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. Do you see anything else critical about this context?
I think if we start on that point of the transfer of the transition functions, the ones that weren't completed, because if you look at the report of the Transition Authority, the report of the CIC before they left office, there's a whole number of things that were supposed to have happened around assets, around liabilities, around human resource, around costing of functions. So the transition period is over, but the transition proper is not complete because county governments still require capacity in some areas. So, and then there are lots of lawsuits that the CIC was running, trying to strengthen the foundation of devolution. So our question is the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee equipped to take up these functions in terms of finances, in terms of political will, in terms of really the strength to stand up to the bullying that we've seen from national government. Of course, there may be some bullying from counties if they want to overextend. So is this body really going to be impartial, and is it strong enough to manage these processes? And that has not been established. In fact, we have a lot of fears that they may see themselves more as an administrative arm, a secretariat to the summit. We've heard them say that on a number of occasions. So will they really arbitrate? Will they really deal with these issues? I don't think that is established, and I believe the Council of Governors should be very concerned and should be trying to ensure that either there are regulations in place or there's a clear work plan in place and there is a budget, because we know the Transition Authority suffered because of poor leadership, but also because they were not resourced to do what they're supposed to do.
But in terms of strengthening the technical committee, hasn't there been talk about giving them the teeth they need to sue and be sued, talk about budgets, or, it just seems that we're always looking to cry foul even before the fouls occur.
You could say that. We've had one engagement with them formally, a couple informally as civil society, and we asked a number of questions to which they didn't have very clear answers, because it depends on what you're saying. How will the legal framework be strengthened? The way it was conceived in the law, it was anticipated a lot of these things would have been dealt with by the transition authority. We must recognize there's been so much pushback from the national government in terms of implementing devolution. Will this body stand up to that bullying? Will they be given the budget? Because we have a history of 3 years of the transition authority being underfunded every year. They were in fact operating like a department of the Ministry of Devolution. So is the same thing going to happen to this committee? Because if that happens, then they may become irrelevant. So it's not speaking really to the leadership or anything. We cannot make that judgment. It's about giving them, like you say, the teeth. Will the regulations around that, is there going to be a review of the law to ensure they're able to play that role? And have we agreed what they're supposed to do? Because the transition authority identified numerous issues. The CIC has a massive report. So which of these issues will we agree to take up? I believe there's a need for a dialogue. And I hope it will be kicked off in Meru around which issues have to be picked up and agreed, because part of the problem we've had in implementing devolution is national government has its own kind of priorities. When you look at the way they were assessing the implementation of devolution at 3 years, the scorecard they gave was laughable, because they missed many of the gaps, simply because there was no consensus on these are the 10 things we have to put in place in order to ensure the transition works. This is what national should do, this is what county should do, and this is where the money is. We never had that agreement. We've had contestation since the onset of county governments, and we would like to, I believe, if we do not see that, we will then say that the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee will become really just you know, a secretariat to the summit.
Okay. Excuse me, Mr. Mvurya, Wanjiru makes some interesting points, and so I will take you back to the first devolution conference. Actually, no, just broadly speaking, because you say that you're looking forward to next week's conference to reflect, but isn't the danger that where you have contestation and lack of agreement on your priorities, that these just become talking shops? You know, attention-grabbing events, you know, money-sucking events. I think the figure you were looking for last year to stage the conference was about over 200 million shillings. And so in terms of priorities, are we just going to talk about the same old thing?
No, it's not just a talk show. Maybe before I talk about the devolution conference, I want to say something about the Intergovernmental Technical Team. We had a meeting with them last week, and I want to say here that they are already frustrated. They don't have a budget. The assets that were supposed to be handed over to them, some of them have been taken over by the Minister of Devolution, which includes vehicles and computers. And therefore, if we now have to rely on that committee to manage the issues that were not done properly by TA, then we really need to strengthen and see how we can be able to give them more power, financial power, and also the issues of resources, so that they can be able to function. But also political goodwill. As it is now, they have been taken over by the ministry, which is not the case. Now, coming to these issues of this conference, it is not just a talk show. You know, this is the only forum where the devolution family can come together. This is also the only forum where we can also benefit, you know, from international experiences. And therefore, it's a very, very critical forum. Because over the years that we've had the conferences, we've progressively realized a lot of gains in terms of dealing with issues that we couldn't deal with, you know, as two levels of government alone.
Issues such as what? I mean, if I take you through the conferences, in the first year, your theme was 1 year into devolution, celebrating the milestones, confronting the challenges. Last year, it was appreciating and strengthening devolved governance, working together to realize the objectives of devolution. And this year it's, gains after the transition, looking into the future. And so I'll come to the panelists to ask, is there really anything different that you're hearing? Because it all seems to be, devolution, gains, successes, challenges. And we're doing this year in, year out. David, am I being unfair?
I don't think so. Actually, there is not, looking in from outside, I don't think there is much difference in each of these conferences. The first one, of course, had issues because we were battling about allocation of resources. And I remember the national government boycotted the one that was held in the governor's home. Then second one in Kisumu was this huge jamboree, actually. As you say, now Meru is over flooding with bookings, there's no accommodation. You wonder, really, is this what devolution was supposed to be? Huge expenditure on reflection workshops and caucuses and conferencing. But at the end of the day, when you pick out the proceeds from that conference, really, really negligible, because it's reflecting on things which could be agreed at the Council of Governors office in Westlands at the cost of 200,000 shillings over a meal at lunchtime. But that is the nature of things in this country. People have to retreat to go and think broadly, invite a few speakers and so forth. And I gather that this particular one is going to draw the participation of the national government at a bigger level, which is a good thing. But if you look back, just a couple of months ago, the president called the governors, and they had a retreat on Mount Kenya Safari Club, where some recommendations, firm ones, austerity measures were unleashed by the national government going forward into this year. If you ask me, none of those things have really been taken up in the administrations of the county governments. So I would agree that really it's talking shop business. Let's go discuss, talk, we go back to our usual shops and do business as usual.
Well,
I think it's a good idea to have these conferences. First of all, to assess and evaluate yourself. The only problem I have, as you have put it and David has put it, is that they have become like domestic tourists. This time they meet in Kwale, another time they go to Meru, another one they go to Kisumu. I think the common mwananchi is not interested in these things. All that they are interested in are their roads. We have physical facilities that are working, but the conferences do not help at all. They are not of interest to me. They are not, I don't have any interest in them. All that I'm asking is my governor in Muranga working for my interests. Where are the roads? Before he goes to Meru, can he tell me why the roads are not good in Muranga, or why the health facilities are not working? I think time has come for the governors to realize that time is running out for them. They will be called to account next year by the voters. And it will not matter how many conferences they have done and what I've agreed in these conferences. All that will matter is my road done. Do I have water? Do I get medicine when I go to hospital? And I think that's what should concern them. The other thing is about mistrust, between the county government and the national government. Why do you have to have the transition authority then come up with another body? Why did we not even continue with the one that was there? If the other one was not working, how is sure this other one is going to work? And these are the issues that Kenyans are not interested in. They are side shows. I think what we need is development at the county level. If you are given less money, the people know that the national government is not doing us justice because it's not giving my governor enough money. But what has the governor done with the little that he or she has got?
Okay, so Governor, there's quite a bit in there, some of which you've already addressed. You've addressed the transition from the TA to the technical committee. But in terms of this talking shop, how does it serve your constituents?
I think let's also agree that devolution is a new concept in our country. And being a new concept, we are implementing it for the first time. We also need to get together also to you know, even get the understanding, you know, and also appreciate. Because, you know, at a local level, you could be knowing what is happening, but at national level, you also get to understand how devolution. But
then how does that speak to David's point about this, you could do this over lunch somewhere in West Africa?
In fact, I want to correct the impression created by my friend here, David. The devolution conference is not a governors conference. It's a conference that brings together the devolution family, the national government, the Senate, the county assemblies, and many other players in the devolution family. So we cannot do it in Westlands, you know, for lunch. At the same time, we can't do it in the style that David is talking about. We need to plan it well, and this one, the chief guest is His Excellency the President, but we also have other guests from other countries, and the point is that even if we did it at KICC, resources would be we would incur expenditures. So it's not a governance conference. Let's remove the mindset that this is just for...
Sorry, Wanjiru would like to come in here.
Yes, I'd like to both support and disagree with the governor, because I think the idea of holding it in different parts of the country is good. It's in the spirit of devolution. I think an annual conference also is good because it's a political statement. I think the problem, though, is that from the first conference to the present, the Council of Governors needs to change strategy, because the first conference was held at a time when counties were so embattled. At that point, the National Assembly had rejected the proposals of the Senate on the sharing of revenue, which is a constitutional principle, and Senate had been forced to go to court, and you know, there was all kinds of really a sense that devolution was under extreme attack. So what the governors did, the Council of Governors, held this really huge statement to say we are here. And you know, in the political arena, in the public arena, it's important to make that statement. But I think things have shifted considerably. One, the national government continues its onslaught against devolution. That I don't think is going to change. Whether it is through alternative funds like the CDF, the Women's Fund, whether it's through big national projects that actually take up county functions. Because if you read the budget policy statement of this year, of last year, the year before, national government actually proceeds as though it's a central government, and devolution is this small thing that happens actually usually on chapter 8, and it's discussed as separate. So ideologically, the national government is not yet on board of devolution, but by now I think the Council of Governors needs to know there's very little they can do to change that. But what they can control is they can control their own outputs. So what concrete thing will the Council of Governors deliver for Kenyans? Are you going to make, I read in the paper 2 months ago, Kivuda Kibwana talking about Makueni is going to give free health care to all residents. By that, I thought, wow, that's fantastic. How is he going to do this? We know that there is shortage of financing. We know that doctors are striking. But I would have expected the COG to sit around and ask him, how are you going to do this? Pick this up so that at this conference, they then unveil. We are talking about free health care in all the counties, because you have learned from there's a lot of innovation happening around the county. Amazing development breakthroughs. But the problem with the Council of Governors is they are still working as 47. They are not yet coming together and saying, well, let us learn from so and so, and say that this is the first tier of counties, we can adopt this. These level of counties cannot adopt this, we demand additional assistance to help us give the free health care. So I think the council needs to move from being a victim and being embattled, and take the battle to the government, or rather take the services to the citizens.
Taking pride, you know, if Governor Mvurya is doing very well and he's rated well, he's happy he will be re-elected. That is a score for him. And I think what Wanjiru is saying is, if Governor Mvurya is well rated because of what he's doing at his county, then that's what he's supposed to go and sell in Meru. David mentioned the cost. Wait until, what you need to do woodwork for us probably, we need to send a camera there and take a shot of every governor when they are ready. is a show of some sort. Because they will go there with their secretaries, with a bodyguard, with all that. That Wanjiku is not interested in that. Wanjiru has mentioned something very important. They are also thinking about the 47 of them. Do you know that the voter in Kwale, the voter in Nyandarua, is not interested in the Council of Governors? Because he or she did not elect a council. They elected a governor. And they know my governor is Mvuria. They're asking themselves, what has my governor done for me? Before he goes to benchmark in Meru and to go for conferences with a delegation of about I don't know how many people, what do we have on the ground? And that's what I think Wanjiru is raising, very important. If you pick on an issue like the one of Makueni, then go discuss it in Meru and say, we can borrow from this. Yeah, rather than fighting.
To be fair to them, I think we've had governors on Cheche who have talked about that. But I think the failure is the Council of Governors not taking that as an approach, best practices, because I do seem to remember some sort of governors going across to Kakamega to learn from each other, but there was no central mechanism to take up the innovation and to filter it.
But how do we learn?
Let me give a chance to the governor to tell us
the
experience sharing that is going on. Because
you know, what you are saying now here is the thrust of the conference. Because part of what we are going to do is also to showcase the unique projects, the unique innovations that have been done in the counties. First of all, to learn from each other, but the second is also to convince the doubting Thomases that devolution is working. And from the first conference...
But you need the conference to do that.
The first conference, the second conference, a lot of those innovations have been learned and implemented in other counties. For example, the issues of technology, you know, where Nairobi is doing very well in that. Now several counties have done automation of their revenue collection. So there are quite a lot of areas that we will also be able to profile. Just to respond to your issue, you know, we will be able to profile those innovations. We will also be able to make sure that
let me talk about on the issue of automation.
Automation will have to wait till after the break. Let's come back to...
But I just gave as an example.
Yeah, let's come back to automation and other examples after the break. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. We're discussing devolution 3 years on. How has devolution changed your life? Talk to us. Our SMS number is 22422, or you can tweet us using the hashtag Cheche.